Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be going over two very popular hybrid firearms. One is the Sig X macro and the second is the Shadow System CR920XP. The reason it is a XP is because I threw the P slide, which is the compensated slide, I threw that on the X frame. Shadow Systems is coming out with this gun eventually, they just don't have it out yet. I wanted to do a comped gun to a comped gun comparison to kind of make it a little bit more equal between these two. So let's get right into it. First, let's kind of go over the size comparisons of these two firearms. Like that, that's kind of what they look like from the top view. I'm going to try to get it back to back there. It's kind of what they look like. So this one's a little bit smaller. Let's go side by side, see if we can get... Guys, they are virtually the same exact size. Even beaver tails on the back are pretty identical. Pretty much all the way through across the board there. I say the front, the only difference I'm really seeing besides the comp there is the front here of the Shadow Systems is like a fraction longer than the Sig. When we match these things up kind of side by side, what I've noticed is that the grip of the macro fills my hand a little bit better than the grip of the Shadow Systems. Now the Shadow Systems is like a typical Glock grip. Okay, it's very blocky. It feels blocky in your hand just like the Glock does. You know, I mean, it's based off the Gen 4 Glock, right? So it does have that appeal to it. This one, however, the macro fills my hand a little bit better. It feels a little bit more ergonomic. Now, big-handed people, keep this in mind. Okay, I have an extra large hand. Okay, my hand does fit around this grip really, really well, which is huge for me when we are talking about concealed carry guns. Okay, same thing with this one. Same thing with the Shadow Systems. Okay, my finger fits all the way on there. My pinky fits all the way on there. That is what I really like about these two guns. Grip texture. This grip texture for the Shadow Systems feels really good. Okay, I can conceal carry this gun with no problem. Okay, it doesn't rub my belly raw. I did have to put some grip tape on the macro just because the macro grip wasn't really working for me that well. Okay, so I did put some on there and it's been great so far. One thing to note, when you are shooting both of these guns do get slide lock every single time, even with my big bear paws. Now how the macro does that is they actually move their slide lock lever up. They moved it up in the gun. It used to kind of be back here. Now they moved it up, so when you have your hand on there, okay, it is completely out of the way of your hand. What they did here is actually different than what Sig did, is they put a little ledge right there, okay, for your hand to rest on. Instead of resting on top of the slide lock, okay, it rests on that little ledge that sticks out there. And I don't know how they do it, but I've been able to achieve slide lock every single time with this gun as well. Let's backtrack a little bit to the magazines. Okay, both metal magazines. The main difference between these two magazines is the Sig does hold 17 rounds and the CR920X holds 15 rounds. So you are getting 2 more rounds with the Sig magazine. Moving on. Second thing that I want to talk about is the triggers. Okay, there you go. There's nothing in here, guys. They are all clear because I know the safety Nazis out there are going to wonder, oh, I'm going to shoot you through the camera. Okay, I'm not a big fan of the straight triggers. Now, if you are a fan of the straight triggers, this macro might be for you because it is a straight up and down trigger, a straight 90-degree trigger, and it breaks at about 90 degrees. Okay, so we're going to do a little trigger pull here. Breaks right there. It doesn't go all the way back to the back, it just right there. Okay, if you're a Glock guy, okay, this one is actually pretty nice because it is not quite rounded. It's kind of like a straight trigger with a little bit of round on the bottom, which I prefer. Okay, with this trigger pull, it kind of pulls all the way to the back of the trigger guard. Okay, typical Glock fashion there. I'm telling you, if you're used to triggers like this and then you start shooting this one, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve because it breaks so early. Both phenomenal triggers, don't get me wrong. They're both great. I just prefer the not quite as straight trigger than I do the flat trigger. Optics, okay, optic placement, they're both great for optics. They both have optic capabilities. They're both optics ready. Big thing with the Sig here on this macro is you no longer have to take, you're not losing your back rear sight when you're taking off the plate. You actually have the back sight and the optic on it at the same time, so that was a good touch for Sig to do that. Let's talk about the comps. Okay, both of these guns, both of these comps work really well with 115 grain ammo. And if you are going to carry these guns, I recommend carrying 115 grain ammo, because if you jump up to 124s or even higher, I usually carry 135s in some of my bigger ones. The recoil on these guns are pretty harsh with 124 grains and above. Okay, so keep that in mind when you are shooting these guns or you're carrying ammo for these guns. Okay, 115 grains, these guns shoot like a dream. If I was to carry these, I would run them with 115 grain hollow point bullets in these two guns here. Between the two, I think the comp on the Shadow Systems is a little bit better, and the reason I think it's a little bit better is because it's an actual comp. It's not integrated into the slide. I wish it did have 2 ports at the top. This one port isn't great, but it does reduce the recoil quite a bit. This one is much more pleasurable to shoot than this one. One key thing I want you to know about this gun is when you start shooting this at the range and you're putting 100 rounds, you're putting like 50 to 100 rounds in it, the front of this gun here gets really, really hot. Okay, because the barrel is short. Okay, so you can use that comp. Well, when you're using a short barrel like that, okay, all that heat is going into the slide. So the whole front half of your slide gets incredibly hot. Okay, now you can rack it back here and you won't feel any heat back at the back of the gun. But if you're going to do like if you're going to rack your slide to the front, like I do sometimes because I'm tactical like that, right? It's going to get really hot. You can't even touch it up here because it's super, super hot. And one thing I forgot to mention with this gun, which I am super happy Sig did this because a lot of manufacturers don't do this, but they have backstrap inserts that you can put in here. They have a small, a medium, and a large. And a lot of companies are not doing that. Like Shadow Systems doesn't do that. Glock doesn't do that. And I don't understand why. Because we all have different hand sizes. Like my bigger hand would do better if they made a large backstrap for this thing. Okay, it's like they assume we're all schmedium hands, and we're not. Okay, so kudos to Sig for that one. Let's kind of go through the scoring system here. Ergonomics. I'm going to have to give it to Sig on ergonomics. It just feels better. It meshes with my hand, my big hand, a little bit better. Let's talk trigger. I'm going to have to give it to Shadow on that one. Okay, I just prefer the non-straight trigger. I'm just so used to Glock style of trigger where I pull it all the way back to the back of the frame there, back of the trigger guard. I'm just used to that over the halfway trigger pull of the Sig. Comp's kind of difficult because this technically is a legit comp and this one's kind of a built-in comp. Obviously, I'm going to have to give it to Shadow Systems because they actually have a legit comp. Magazine capacity, we obviously got to give it to Sig there. They have 17 rounds compared to 16. Yes, the 17th round doesn't fit good in there, but it still can hold 17 rounds, which is huge with a gun that is this small. I'm going to say shootability. I'll be honest with you, I still have to give it to Shadow Systems. It shoots just a little bit better, and I believe it has a lot to do with that comp there. It just, especially if you're using 115 grain ammo. Now, if you were going to jump up to 124 grain ammo, I believe that this gun, I believe the Sig X macro comp is actually better if you're going to run 124 grain ammo. Close ranges, these are both a wash. Okay, I shot tiny groups at close range with both of these guns. I shot them slow, I shot them fast. It didn't really matter. With longer distances, however, I really struggled with the macro. The Shadow Systems excelled quite a bit at longer distances. Now, shots on target, they're equal out to distance, but in terms of tighter groups, I have to give it to Shadow Systems on that one. You guys can't really go wrong with either one of these firearms here. They're both fantastic options for you. For me, it was just the deciding factor was the grip angle. I was not a fan of the grip angle of the Sig. I just don't feel like retraining myself just to carry one firearm. I would rather stick with the same family of grip angle that I am used to, the Glocks, and I just, every time I present, it is right there. And so that's just the gun I prefer. But that does not make this gun any better than this gun here. They're both great. They both hold a high number of rounds, but you guys, you can't complain with either one of these. I hope this video helped you decide on which firearm that you want. I do this because I love you guys and I want you guys to make the correct decision. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comments below. I will try my best to answer your questions. Remember to train hard, get strong, be a protector. If no one said they love you today, I love you guys. God bless you all.